Well, I'm making noises, so am I too close to something or something's going on here? There's a screech. Well, anyway, I'm going to keep it a little short. You had a great sermon already. Ken did a great job. I couldn't do it any better than that when you're talking about the need of the shelter. Him explaining his position and what he went through and all of that is fantastic. I do have to confess, we left our rules for a moment because I got this call from Pastor Ed. He had this woman that he wanted to send up, and we were supposed to do a background check. I said, don't do it because she'll never pass. Yes. And then Marilyn come up. I just want to say what a joy it is to have Marilyn at the shelter. She is a joy. We put her on staff immediately, and she works all day long with a big smile on her face. You never see when she's not smiling, and she's always doing something. She's in the kitchen or she's helping somebody. She's doing something all the time. And then she was peeling potatoes the other day, smiling like she was in her right mind. You know, just peeling potatoes. And she says, well, I'll probably be out by spring. I'm hoping that springs are like 20 years springs down the road, because she is such a blessing to our shelter, seriously. And we're happy to have her. She's a fantastic staff member. And, I'm sorry she wound up having to go to the homeless shelter, but I'm awful happy that she's at the shelter because she is a tremendous joy, to say the least. So, anyway, I'm just going to share quickly from the Word. Like I say, Ken did a whole message for me, so I don't have to do that. He covered most everything. I did have a message. Well, you can see what my messages are. That's all my messages. So, yeah, you pretty much know I can adjust it as I go. I have a title and a couple of scriptures. The title is Learn the Lesson. And if I was to ask you right now, why was Sodom destroyed? Who could give me the answer why Sodom was destroyed? You guys all got it in Sunday school and everything, right? Why was Sodom destroyed? Anybody know? Wicked. What did they do? They were in. You listened to my stuff before. You cheated, Linda. Ah! That's not the answer you're supposed to give me. There's one in every crowd. I know it, man. It's like, come on now. Yeah. Anyway, awesome. Yeah. When I've asked that before, I talked about this when I was on the Cape, the same type of message, and they brought up the real answer they're supposed to bring up to set me up and not get ahead of me was sexual immorality. And that's what most people, a lot of that, I always did. You picked it up, you were sharper than I was. Went through school, been pastor for 30 some odd years, and I never even saw this passage in Ezekiel. It's in Ezekiel chapter 16. And it's talking to Jerusalem and talking about, because they're pretty self-righteous, think they're pretty hot stuff, and they've gone astray. And he says, starting verse 43, I'll read this quickly, make a couple comments, and one other scripture, and that'll be about it. But it says, verse 43, because you did not remember the days of your youth, but enraged me with all these things, I will surely bring down on your head what you've done, declares the sovereign Lord. Did you not add lawlessness to all your detestable practices? Well, everyone who quotes Proverbs will quote this proverb about you. Like mother, like daughter. You're a true daughter of your mother who despised her husband and her children. You're a true sister to your sisters who despised their husbands and their children. Your mother was a Hittite, your father an Amorite. Your older sister was Samaria, who lived to the north of you with her daughters, and your younger sister who lived in the south of you with her daughters was Sodom. You not only followed their ways and copied their detestable practices, but in all your ways you soon became more depraved than they. He's talking to his own people. In fact, I read this, I thought he was talking to the United States. As surely as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, your sister Sodom and her daughters never did what you and your daughters have done. Now you think he's going on to talk about homosexuality or whatever, because that's usually what you pin to that, is sexual sins. But he said, now this was the sin of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters were arrogant, overfed, and unconcerned. They did not help the poor and needy. I never saw that in Scripture. In all the years I've studied and been to school and preached and all that, I never saw it before. And then I look at where we're at in America right now with so many churches. There's people outside that are literally dying in the cold. There's people that are hungry and going without. Ken gave his story of being a child growing up, but right now it could be anybody, not just him. But that's the churches, for the most part, turn their backs on him. And he said to Jerusalem, I'm going to stomp you like a bug because of what you did. You're my kids, and you can't act like this. You cannot neglect the poor and the needy. And for some reason, we, as churches in America, we've kind of blown that off. And he says, you've got arrogant, and we've done that. Self-righteous, we've done that. So many times in churches, now you guys, it's like home here, all right? So I feel like I'm talking to the choir when I say this, but this is the message anyway. So many times we get to the point when somebody comes to our church. I know my church in the past has been like that before 2008. We look them all over and see whether or not we really want anything to do with them. And if you come in and you weren't dressed right, or you didn't talk right, or you come from the wrong area, you wouldn't even set aside you in church. And you'd make them uncomfortable enough so they didn't want to come back. I got a pastor, you know, and I've been pounding this. If you've been watching me on streaming, you know I've been really pounding because it's been driving me on my mind. It's in my book, my 5th book, because it's really bugging me. When a pastor asked me how I could work with homeless, don't they make me uncomfortable? I want to slap him. Actually, I just did a podcast. I'm on the podcast now, and I mentioned that. And poor Pastor Al Tiemann, his eyeballs come on his cheeks, his mouth dropped, and I said, you go pray for him, I'll slap him. If he's that far gone, praying won't even help him. It's like, just left me mad. And I know this don't sound very pastoral, but I'm just laying it out there. That's how it is. And I said, I'm going to tell you something. And I left it at that because I was getting ready to do a funeral, actually. We were talking just for the funeral. He wanted to go off and talk about Calvinism and all that. And I said, that's a bunch of crap. I don't even talk about that anymore. That don't mean nothing. All I care about is getting a sandwich to somebody that's hungry, wrap my arms around somebody that's hurting. I don't care about arguing about Calvinism or tongues or whatever it is you want to argue about. I said, I used to do all of that stuff for hours. I said, yeah, I can sit here and argue. It doesn't amount to a hill of beans. I said, the people come in hurting. They don't want me to tell them about the tulip of Calvinism. They want to know if I have a tuna sandwich. Not the tulip, they want tuna. It's like, come on, man. He says, I don't get it, man. Aren't you uncomfortable with those people? I said, these are my people. You know the problem is, people are judging without even knowing who they're talking about. You know, yeah, we had a 6-month-old baby in our shelter, a little baby boy, 6 months old. You tell me you're uncomfortable around that little 6-month-old baby? What did he do to deserve your scorn? Just because his mom and dad didn't have a place to stay. They had met Marilyn. Well, of course, that's a bad case. No, that's right. Maybe that would make you uncomfortable if you ever met her. Yeah. I'll tell you, the homeless are made up of every walk of life you can name. I have contractors come there that went through a divorce and they lost their business. Their wives ended up with everything. They come with a shirt on their back. I can give you lists and lists. They go, well, they're all drug addicts, they're all alcoholics, they're all lazy, they're all bums, they're all uneducated. That is a bunch of crock. I tell you what, it goes between 2 pieces of bread. It's called baloney. That's what it is. And when I hear that kind of stuff, it just enrages me. And when I see how people look down on them, then I see this, And God is speaking to his own people in Jerusalem and going, listen, this is what you're all about. This is how far you've come down. I destroyed Sodom for this. And you smile at them, man. You're doing the same thing they did that I destroyed them for. Right now, the Church of America, for the big part of the Church of America, better wake up. It's time to get out of our own way and smarten it. We need more lights. We need more churches. We need more standing up. I was on Cape Cod, and it said, story will be in my book when it comes out, book 5. And I was there a few years back, and the first time I ever spoke to them about the homeless, right afterwards, they said, we got to do something about it. They called me, and I got home and said, Pastor Barry, my wife's a teacher in the school, and her kids, she's got homeless kids in her class. This is on Cape Cod. You think of the rich and the famous, well, either rich and famous or you're poor and hungry on Cape Cod. There's no in between, man. I didn't know that until I got there. And as Pastor Dave Johnson, his wife Trish, and so Trish after said to her husband, says, we got to do something. So he says, well, we're just a handful of people and all of that. We'll do something. So they decided to take knapsacks and fill them up with food and give them to the kids that weren't eating when they weren't in school. Well, they started that out, and that just blew up. God took that, and he ran with it. Now, this has been like 4 years, something like that, maybe 5, 6, I don't know how many it's been, but they've now got businesses involved, they got churches involved, individuals involved, and they now are in 27 schools on Cape Cod. Ain't that something? So the kids got stuff to eat in the summer, during the weekends, or whatever, when they're not in school. They're eating. Now, that's what it's all about. See, that's when God says, yeah, buddy, now that's my kids. That's my kids. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Then he looks at others, that there's people outside, and the doors are locked 6 days a week, so they can't come in, and they're out there hungry around the church and totally ignored. And if they do come to the door, they're asked, please don't come in. You know, the world can treat them like that, but the church has no right. Not if you're the kids of God. You know, I was sharing this morning at prayer meeting, I saw on the news that they're driving the people off the streets in Bangor right now. There's a couple of outfits in Bangor doing a great job. They're in my book 5, by the way. But they're calling the police for the homeless that are walking the street. They want them off the street, not sleeping, walking. And they had the police chief say on this, so it wasn't a rumor. I watched him, and he said, I'm getting calls, and I have to send my guys down because that's what we're paid to do. But he said, I want to say this. He said, these people aren't breaking the law. What do you want us to do? So we go, okay, we got a call. I got to move you along. He said, since you're out of the way, they're going to move back. So what are they supposed to do? He said, instead of calling us up to drive them off, why don't we all get together and start doing something to help them? Why don't we set up a program for the drugs and the addictions or whatever they have? How about building some little homes that they can live in if we don't want them on the streets instead of just driving them off? You know, if that was cats and dogs, they'd call a humane society and say, we need to catch them because they need to be fed. These animals need to be taken to the humane society and taken care of. But people, we run them off. Now, it's one thing for the world to do that. But I'll tell you right now, God's kids can't do that. They can't do that. So I'm praising God this morning for outfits like your church that support the homeless. And there's other little churches that support the homeless. And individuals support the homeless. And it's growing. And new organizations are popping up for the homeless. But we need more. We need a whole lot more. And in Galatians chapter 2, here Paul he's going for the Jerusalem council because he wants to be recognized. It's going to be verse 10. He wants to be recognized as an apostle, so he goes and gives his testimony, and the people tell him about what Paul was able to do and all this. Because, you know, he wasn't with Jesus, and one of the qualifications had to be an apostle. You had to be with Jesus for the 3 years. You had to be there to see the crucifixion, had to witness him from the resurrection. In Acts chapter 1, it tells that. Well, Paul didn't fit those descriptions, and Paul even called himself one born out of time, which really weird Greek word is for an abortion. So I don't know how that all worked out, but that's what the word means. But he was born out of time, so he went to them, and he goes, I know I wasn't there for 3 years, and I know this all this, but I had this experience on the Damascus Road where I know Christ is alive. He talked to me, and he told me, and he said, I got to go to the Gentiles, so that's what I want to do, but I want your approval, your ordination, so to speak. And they listened, and they determined as a council he was an apostle. They said, go, but here's the words they told him as they went. Verse 10 of chapter 2 of Galatians. All they asked was that we should continue to remember the poor, the very thing I've been eager to do all along. Now, that's how much importance. God told them in the Old Testament, I destroyed a city because they neglected the poor. He tells us in the New Testament, I want to send you off as an apostle or representative of mine, don't forget the poor. So where should the church be? Where should our priorities be? It's around the poor. You know, I can't tell you what a blessing it is to walk into that shelter every morning and look at those faces and know they're taken care of. I watch people come in whose eyes are full of hopelessness, and I see them become hopeful. You see people come in without Christ, leave with Christ. Come on without homes, leave in homes. Come in without jobs, get jobs. You see all of that, and God is working, and He's showing them just who He is. And they're the same ones that people were putting down before. And when we opened up in 2008, if you lived in my shelter, you could not get a job in Skowhegan. As soon as they found out your address, you had to write it down. You put 12 McClellan, your resume was thrown away. You know what they're doing now? You got anybody? Hello? All of a sudden, the homeless have some value. And he found out our homeless, we have people in there that are unbelievable workers, unbelievable skills, and smart. Yeah, some come in off the street and they don't look the same way as they do after they've been there a few days. Because now they get a chance to shower and put on good clothes, because we got a closet that has some awesome clothes and they dress up, and you can't tell from anybody else. If I tell you, if we have a church service, we have residents and non-residents. I'm not a bet man, but if I was, I'd give you 10 to 1 odds you couldn't pick out the non-resident from the resident. I guarantee you can't. They don't look a bit different. They don't dress any different. Now, the pastor, you might figure, is homeless, but that's because he don't dress like your pastor. You know, Slick Willie here comes in, you know, make me look bad. You know, comes in that suit that you want. I left my sunglasses in the truck. You know, and he just did that to show me up. So, I just want to tell you, the clothes don't make you look good in the eyes of God. My mama, she's been mad at me ever since I've been doing this, because I used to wear a suit until 2008 because I had a church that demanded it. Now, in the summer, I wear my shorts, t-shirts, and sandals. Winter time, I do wear my wind pants, so my legs are covered up, so you're blessed today. You didn't have to see those. They look almost as bad as ants. But I guarantee you, if you didn't know who I was, I just sat down beside the rest of the guys there, and somebody said, go in and pick out the pastor, you couldn't do it. There'd be a lot of guys you pick out ahead of me. And that's the way I want it. I want to fit in with my people. And if you want to get me mad, just ask me if they make me uncomfortable, and you will make me ugly. And I will be very unpastoral, and I'll want to slap you. That's just the truth. You know, my other pastors will pray for you. I'll hit you upside the stinking head if you do that. Because I feel just like God when He spoke to Jerusalem and said, you know, I could squash you like a bug for what you're doing. If I was God, I'll tell you right now, there's some churches around here that would really dislike me. Because we'd have McDonald's French fries sitting in the pews, because that's what I would do to them. I'd fry them. I don't sound very pastoral, do I? Somebody said, you know, Pastor, I describe you as real. My wife says real bad sometimes, but I just want you to take to heart that we need to learn the lessons that Jerusalem had to learn. And God put them into captivity because they didn't learn it. Paul, he already learned it. They said, look, take care of the poor, learn the lesson. He said, I'm already going to do that, man. I love that when Paul says, I was already going to do that. Well, you didn't have to bring it up. Well, in America, we have to bring it up. And I'm going to pound the turf and do the streaming, and I'm going to beat this horse to death until we see people step up to the plate. And they go, you know what? I'm comfortable now. I'm comfortable now. That's all I got to say, Pastor. Beep, 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 beep. That's all, folks. I love you if you are Slick Willie.
My wife laughed on that one.
She did.
Even the chairman of the board is laughing. He doesn't know what to say either.
He never does.
Pastor, I love you. And I know you will second this motion, but Ken, thank you for sharing. But I will tell you, we could not have a better board chairman. We could not have a man that loves this ministry as much as you do. So thank you for all you do for the board and for the homeless, you and your wife and your children. Amen. Okay. Just a couple of quick announcements and then we're going to have a closing song.
Yes, cover that thing up.
Wow.
Oh, man. I like that.
I was gonna have
Wow.
now, I can see.
Yeah.
Sean, I was going to praise you. I was going to encourage you, but that ain't going to happen now. Brett, do I got to stand here so I can make sure I'm?
Yeah,
Yes. Line him up, Brett.
yeah, he's good. As long as he stays like.
So we'll take this with me? All right. Okay. Look at that hat. Oh, our precious friends from Winthrop are here. Praise God. Good to see you, man. Thank you. Handsome young man that are with you. Thank you for being here. So, just do me a favor. He'll be gone next week. Come back. He won't be here.
Hey, Pastor,
Yes.
show me your feet.
Show
Pick
me your
up your
feet.
foot.
Your sockless feet. Your sockless.
Just pick up your foot.
What?
You got Crocs on.
Oh, no, I got shoes.
Oh.
Oh, no, Slick Willie's got his shoes on today.
Crocs on.
Show them the good-looking Crocs right there. Look at them, baby. There's a good-looking Crocs right there. Both of yous?
Nope, he's good.
Oh, he's got sneakers. Okay, that's all right. Anyway, so these are the hats you can buy, by the way. These hats are for sale. These polo shirts are for sale. The t-shirts that Pastor and Ken have on are all for sale today. And I will tell you, I've seen the prices, and Ken, God bless him, as chairman of the board, there might be $1 or $1.50 more in these things than they have paid for them. So all the money goes to the shelter, okay? All the money goes to the shelter. So if you would, if you want to do that, that's not my kind of hat, but you are certainly more than welcome to. We have two different colors, right? There's a pink hat,
Be quite blue.
blue.
Yeah.
So let me tell you this story. Speaking of pink.
Oh, you gotta tell him that one.
Yes, I am.
You rotten person.
So you remember the last board of directors meeting we had? Before you got there, he got mouthy. See my Bible?
Uh,
It's pink for a reason. My wife knows.
I
So
thought it was pink.
we sit down at the table, you let me tell it. We sit down at the table, and he sees my pink Bible, and his comment was, "Oh, you like pink?"
Actually, I said, "You like Pete?"
Yeah.
Yes.
And then right after, he said, "You know what? I bet that I'm gonna eat my words, because I bet there's a reason it's pink." And I said, "Yes, as a matter of fact, Pastor, I do it in honor of my mother,
Yeah,
who had passed away from breast cancer.
yeah, that hurt.
So I wear pink and I have a pink Bible to honor my mother." And he said, "Well, don't I feel stupid now?"
Yes. Yes, I used a word stronger than that.
Yes, you did.
I
But we'll keep
We
it
keep
clean.
it pastoral.
We'll keep it clean. So anyway, just a couple of quick announcements that I want to make. Shoe boxes. We are going to be packing shoe boxes today when we're done. Thanks to, we're gonna have pizza and, yeah, thank God for Jim Chapman. Jim Chapman, he got a whole pan of baked mac and cheese and pulled pork. So my wife is gonna run up, and if you wanna go now, baby, you can do that. We're gonna have pizza, and she's gonna have sandwiches. You can have pulled pork sandwiches. We have tables of goods out there that Ellen, my wife, other ladies have brought in stuff. A plethora, I mean, there's to pack shoe boxes.
Amen.
We'll feed you, but come help us pack shoe boxes. Now, I gotta warn you, just don't go out and start grabbing stuff. Talk to the ladies that are out there first. There are certain things that have to be done. If you pack a pink comb with one of the trucks, you're either gonna have a very disappointed girl or boy. So there are certain age groups, there are certain genders, boys, girls, age groups. All those things have to be thought of, okay? So don't just go out and grab boxes, please, don't do that. We have 50 boxes that we gotta fill, and so praise God for that. But please, help us do the shoe boxes. We have a video, yes?
Pastor,
Oh, hold on, yes.
something out of your control, you're gonna flip it. Sorry, I love you. Pastor Ted.
Here's your senior
Pastor
elder.
Ted, can you come up here, please?
Here's your senior elder.
Can't do both, but you can't do both?
Yeah, no, Marilyn, could you
That's
go
all
up back?
That's all right. You're
No,
fine.
no, he can't. Marilyn's going up back.
Pastor Barry?
Go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Anyways, I picked this time, Pastor, I see where you're segueing off, and we're gonna go back and, see the movie and go back and pack, but, this is Pastor Appreciation Month. And I'll stop you,
We
son.
didn't get away with it.
No,
So, and I got asked to present the cards and this morning, and Pastor's taking a little heat. I heard comments about his jacket, and Pastor Barry talking about how he dresses, but I do want you to know, Pastor comes from a world where, especially in the sales world, with how you dress commands respect. And Pastor puts on his tie because he has respect for us and everyone he has to deal with. He's a great man in how he takes care of our church. He has to deal with the people outside in the community, taking care of funerals, all that. Our pastor walks and he puts his tie on every morning because he has respect for us. Pastor Ted has been a great teammate and one of our pastors. Yes, you stay there.
He brought me up. He wouldn't let me get out of here.
And yeah, I did just slam you about picking on my pastor the way he dresses.
Well, that's okay. I'll do it again too.
And with Pastor Ted, and complimenting for the things that we do tease Pastor about. And how he's brought the technology and all the things we do, the small little church does all throughout the world, which you've heard this morning. this doesn't just go on. They work full-time jobs somewhere else. They have full-time families somewhere else, and they set the example, because they're really open to the body with their families and when we're praying for them. And I wonder who was praying for, we've been praying for Victoria for a long time. Who was praying for the accident? So that, through their whole lives, they are a testimony of how we are supposed to live. And with the addition of Pastor Barry, and I really can relate. I'm usually very rude and short of people, and there's a reason why I'm like that. Is because I know that there are times in my life on a daily basis when somebody needs to be short and rude with me, and I need to be slapped. And I know exactly how he feels, and he's a very humble man, and he has a right to say those things, because I know he knows when he should be slapped. And that's a great, great thing to, as a man. We heard Ken's testimony. He realized there's been times in his life when he needed to be slapped, and he's chose to have Jesus Christ be the guide of his life. And our church has prepared 3 cards to honor you during Pastor Appreciation Month. And, wow. And we are honored that you are our pastors. And I'm sorry that I had to be the one to, I know you're embarrassed. I love you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, brother.
So, Pastor, don't go anywhere yet.
Which pastor?
You're the pastor. I'm the visitor, you're the pastor.
Pastor Barry, come on.
I'll see, didn't get out of it.
So,
Pastor, thank you, but I can tell you this, in my 30 years here, in my 37, 38 years in ministry, these 2 men will attest to the next statement. Our kids and my wife have paid a high price for us to be in ministry. And so without our wives, what you see here would be absolutely impossible. So Brendan, being 7,
My wife will slap you for this.
and here's why they paid a high price. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Most of you don't know the highest price my wife pays. She has to listen to me every Sunday whether she likes it or not. But believe that that's harder than you realize. She turned beside me all the way from Rumford to here. And I'm sure there are times, Marilyn, she has wanted to slap you for getting me here. But without them, without you, without these wives, what we do is absolutely 100% impossible. So ladies, if you would stand together right here, please. All these 3 ladies, yes. Without them, this is impossible.
Okay, Pastor Ted. You ready? You're up.
Well, let's
pick up where Pastor Barry left off. Pastor is very kind to me, always says, you know, oh gee, the best assistant that there ever is, whatever, right?
True.
And being honest, like I know you want me to be, we had some pretty hard times together. It's almost like being married.
My wife is shaking her head real.
We're totally different. I mean, I don't know that, you know, in those early times that I should even be here. God has proven that. I'm good with that. That this is my family. This is kind of like you, Ken. I got here in a roundabout way in my life. So I'm just glad that you all are even willing to listen when I stand up here. But more than that, I'm glad that some of the words that come out of my mouth are actually from God and they can be used. And it's been a validation over all of these years that, you know, the more that I think I don't belong, the more God just kind of tells me I do.
Amen.
And he's right. Our wives put up with a lot. And a lot of times it's like, but why? A lot of times I don't have that answer, but why? All I know is that I feel like I have to. Anyway, sorry for blubbering.
I assume it's going this way?
Anytime, guys.
Yes.
You giving me a mic again?
Yeah, talk about your wife.
Talk about my wife.
Be nice.
Okay, I
So, Pastor, we're looking for a new pastor.
I'll tell you what, until 2008, you know, my wife always supported me, but in 2008, when we started the homeless shelter and everybody left my church, I tell you right now, if she hadn't been there with me telling me I could do this, I would have stopped. There's many times I just want to quit and walk away. So, when Pastor Ed said, you know, this wouldn't be possible without our wives, I can guarantee you, Shelters by Jesus would not be here. If I didn't have a wife that stood with me, I would have walked. I can't tell you the pain of watching you sitting in church walk out the door, all your leaders, and your wife's telling you can still do it. And if God's got a purpose, and if they want to leave, then probably you're better off. And that's what she'd tell me, and I didn't feel better off. I felt terrible. It's like pastors aren't here to drive their people out the door. And she kept saying, you didn't drive them anyway, you're just taking care of the homeless, and if they don't want to be there part of it, then God will take care of us. And he did, and we prospered, and that's why I'm here today, to be able to tell you all these things and pick on your pastor and have fun.
Amen.
So thanks for recognizing the job our wives do. I'm always recognized, that's, the pastors always recognized. Everywhere we travel, it's Pastor Barry, Pastor Barry, Pastor Barry. There would not be a Pastor Barry had it not been for Selma Barry. I can tell you that right now.
One more time for the line.
Okay, thank you.
We can leave now?
Yep. Okay, Vern, thank you. By the way, I knew when I saw Vern heading up this way, you know, to say something about Vern. He doesn't come up here unless there's a reason, so I knew one or two things, either I was getting fired or something was. But Vern is, he's our senior elder, and we are blessed to have a senior elder like we do. Okay, shoebox. Could we show that video, please? By the way, I believe right now we're up big, but we're up to like 180 plus. So after today, we'll be over 200.